Welcome to the Paper Trail of Tears, the only podcast brave enough to broadcast from a converted broom closet because our company's idea of a media budget is whatever falls out of the CFO's couch cushions. I'm Alex, your host and veteran GRC analyst.
And I'm Sam, the new hire who still believes in things like industry best practices and functioning software.
How refreshing. For our new listeners, GRC traditionally stands for Governance, Risk, and Compliance. But here at our Fortune 500 company, it stands for Getting Records Cheaply.
Right.
Let's start with governance. Sam, tell our audience about your recent experience trying to implement our new document approval policy.
Well, I suggested we use DocuSign for digital signatures, like a normal company in 2024.
And what did our CEO say?
He said DocuSign costs money and suggested we either use crayon signatures or implement a verbal pinky promise system for contract execution.
Verbal pinky promises for SOC 2 compliance. The auditors are going to love that. I also mentioned we need a PDF editor to redact sensitive information in documents. Let me guess. Too expensive?
He handed me a black Sharpie and said, "There's your redaction tool." Apparently, we're going analog for data protection.
Moving on to risk management. Sam, you've been working on our risk register. How's that going?
It's, educational. I discovered that our risk management strategy is to simply accept every risk that costs more than $5 to mitigate.
$5 whole. We're spenders.
Our network security risk is listed as high impact, high probability, but marked as accepted because buying an actual firewall costs more than our quarterly coffee budget.
For clarity, our current firewall is a Post-it note stuck to the server room door that says, "Please don't hack us." I wrote "pretty please" on it last week. That's our security enhancement for Q4.
Speaking of our CEO's cost-cutting brilliance, remember the data center cooling incident?
Oh, you mean the time he decided air conditioning was an unnecessary luxury during the heat wave?
Right. It was 98 degrees outside, and he sent out an email saying, "Fresh air is free, people. Open some windows." The data center doesn't have windows, Alex.
His solution was to buy 12 desk fans from the dollar store and tape them to the server racks. Total cost, $14.37.
The servers started overheating within 2 hours. Our main production database crashed. The e-commerce site went down during our biggest sales day of the quarter. We lost an estimated $200,000 in revenue and had to pay emergency HVAC contractors triple overtime rates to get the cooling fixed. Total cost, $47,000. And when the board asked him about it, he said, quote, "Well, at least we saved $14 on electricity that day."
$47,000 loss, but hey, we saved $14. That's the kind of innovative thinking that gets you a corner office and a company car.
The best part, he marked it in the risk register as lessons learned and moved on. No process changes, no backup cooling plans, just pure, unfiltered optimism that it won't happen again. Maybe we should get a proper GRC tool like Archer or ServiceNow to track these risks properly.
Ha, ha, ha. Our GRC software is a shared Google Sheet named Stuff That Might Go Wrong that crashes whenever more than 2 people look at it simultaneously.
Right, I keep forgetting.
Now, for everyone's favorite topic, compliance. Sam, you've been preparing for our upcoming ISO 27001 audit. How compliant are we feeling?
We're compliant in the sense that we haven't been caught yet, which is different from actual compliance, but apparently that's a distinction our leadership doesn't appreciate.
Speaking of compliance issues, tell them about our CEO's brilliant idea for the new invoicing system.
Oh, you mean Invoice, the groundbreaking financial software developed by his cousin Derek, who until last month was a part-time dog walker with a certification in Microsoft Paint?
That's the one. Derek's security credentials include a YouTube tutorial on how to make passwords strong and an expired antivirus license from 2019. But it's family, Sam, and family means savings.
Right. And when I asked Derek about data encryption, he said, well, the files have passwords on them. When I mentioned PCI compliance, he asked if that was some kind of computer virus.
The best part is that Invoice stores all our financial data on Derek's personal Dropbox account, the same Dropbox he uses for his collection of motivational cat memes.
And when the auditors ask for our data processing agreements and security certifications for third-party vendors, our CEO's response was, and I quote, "Derek's a good kid. Just tell the auditors he's really good with computers. I've been tasked with creating a vendor assessment form that Derek can pass. So we're trusting our entire invoicing process to someone who thinks backup means saving files to his desktop and his documents folder. This should end well."
Tell them about our asset management system.
We're tracking multi-million-dollar liabilities using a cracked version of Excel 2007. The formulas break every time someone sneezes near the server.
And our backup strategy?
We email ourselves copies and hope Gmail doesn't go down.
The auditors asked for our business continuity plan last week. I printed out a Magic 8-Ball instruction manual and submitted that.
Did they accept it?
They're still reviewing it. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Maybe we could implement a proper control framework.
Our control framework is that same Google Sheet I mentioned earlier, but we added a column called "Is This Bad?" with drop-down options of yes, probably, and ask Alex.
And how often do people actually ask Alex?
Never. They just select probably and move on with their lives. Oh, and Sam, we haven't even touched on our revolutionary policy distribution system. Tell our listeners about how we modernized the ancient art of document sharing.
Right, our cutting-edge hybrid approach. We create all our policies in Google Docs, which is very 21st century, but then we distribute them by hand copying every single page because our printers have been out of ink since the Obama administration.
For context, our IT security policy is 14 pages long. Sam had to hand copy it 43 times for distribution to all departments. That's over 600 pages of handwriting.
My hand cramped so badly I had to take 3 sick days, and about halfway through my handwriting deteriorated to the point where I'm pretty sure the accounting department thinks our password policy requires 8 or more chickens with special characters. The best part is when I suggested we could just buy ink cartridges for $30, our CFO replied, "Well, if we start buying ink, where does it end? Pretty soon you'll want paper, then staplers. It's a slippery slope to fiscal irresponsibility."
And then there's version control. When we updated the policy in Google Docs, I had to send a company-wide email asking everyone to please throw away their handwritten copies and come get new handwritten copies from my desk.
Of course, half the departments claimed they never got the first memo about throwing away the old policies. So now we have people following 3 different versions of our access control procedures, depending on which handwritten copy they happen to keep.
And when the auditors asked to see our policy distribution evidence, I had to show them a stack of handwritten papers that looked like ransom notes. One auditor asked if we were being held hostage by our own IT budget. I had to explain with a straight face that yes, this is how a Fortune 500 company distributes critical security policies in 2025. The auditor just stared at me, then wrote something down. I'm pretty sure it wasn't best practice observed.
But hey, we saved $30 on ink cartridges. Sure, we spent over 100 hours of labor costs and potentially compromised our policy compliance, but think of the savings. Our CEO probably got a bonus for that level of innovative cost management. Before we sign off, folks, we should probably mention that this has all been a rather dramatic exaggeration of what it's actually like working in information security as a GRC analyst.
Right. Most companies don't actually use Post-it notes as firewalls. Most of them.
Well, folks, this has been enlightening as always.
And we're going to have to wrap up here because our on-air light just died.
You mean the flashlight taped to the wall?
That's the one. The batteries are dead, and the company won't expense AA batteries because, and I quote, podcasters should provide their own power sources. But if you work in GRC, especially at a company that prioritizes cost savings above all else, you've probably experienced some version of these scenarios. Maybe not hand-copied policies, but close.
The struggle is real when you're trying to implement proper governance, risk management, and compliance in an environment where good enough is considered gold standard. To all the GRC professionals out there fighting the good fight with limited budgets and unlimited creativity, we see you. Keep documenting those risks, even if it's in that Google sheet. And remember, every no to a security tool request is just another entry in your lessons learned log. Before we sign off, folks, we should probably mention that this has all been a rather dramatic exaggeration of what it's actually like working in information security as a GRC analyst. Stay compliant, stay cynical, and remember, in GRC, hope is just a risk that hasn't been properly assessed yet. Thanks for listening, and come back for our next podcast where we will dive into specific issues with GRC and how to handle them.
This has been the Paper Trail of Tears. Remember, if it's not documented in our crashed Google Sheet, it didn't happen. Bye-bye.